Selection of songs as I was
is
coming
it?
to the studio.
Nice. I'm
Oh,
glad.
yes.
I know my doctor loves to party. So when he hears the jams like that,
Warming me up for the weekend.
Yeah,
I like
that's
the
good.
francophone thing.
Is
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Oh, I see. I
And
see.
the flexibility Daniel was talking about, the wasting,
You,
That is true.
oh, is it?
What
Is
else you
it?
cover us or at that time? So there was a Bapuka dance,
Oh, I remember
era.
the Mapuka dance. I see.
One of the whole weeks we got, we invited some of them
Oh,
from
wow.
La Côte d'Ivoire, and I realized that I don't know, maybe the cassava we eat here, makes our waist too stiff.
There's too much starch.
I don't know, but Nkari is different. So when I heard
Alright.
Daniel going on about that, I was like, oh yeah, right.
Yes.
Performing
Anyway.
DBB. Right, Kwame, last week I was not able to come into the studio.
Yeah, we had
because
a
of
stormy weather.
Yes, because of the rains, but it's good to be here inside the studio.
Yeah.
Another Wednesday to have another very exciting conversation. So,
And today we have a very important conversation. I mean, one that a lot of people are quite familiar with, but today we want to actually really understand it a bit more. So 17th of May is World Hypertension Day.
Hypertension Day, World Hypertension Day, absolutely.
And that's just a few, probably a little over a week ago,
Yes,
where the world raises awareness about hypertension.
hypertension.
Of course, we are not new to the word hypertension.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard it many times.
Many times.
We have friends and family who probably are suffering from this hypertension thing.
Yep.
So today we thought to actually ask you as many questions as we can about hypertension. So if you're listening in right now, today we are going to answer all your questions about hypertension. You're welcome to send them to us on our WhatsApp number 055-1111997. Okay, today I want the doctor, I don't want you to deliver a lecture today. We have questions. I know people have questions.
Absolutely.
And they want to ask about hypertension.
Good. So we're going to do what? Frequently asked questions.
Yes.
A lot of people ask questions a lot about hypertension, right? So, Pam, it's good that we are looking at it today. One of the things about this disease is that it's so common. So everybody thinks they know something about it or we understand it. It is only when you start to get into it, then you'd realize that the knowledge is a bit, half-baked. We don't quite understand it. So today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to field as many questions about this disease as we can, as the time would allow us, so that we provide clarity.
Okay.
And also enhance that whole prevention, early detection, and control of this disease.
Right. If you're listening and you're hypertensive and you have issues that you want clarity on as well, you can send us a WhatsApp message on 055-1111997. So for starters, Doc,
Right.
what exactly is hypertension? I know normally you'd find hypertension in the same sentence with BP. Are they brothers, siblings, cousins, or exes?
Clan members.
They are clan members.
Right. So when we talk about or the Ghanaian parlance, we would say BP,
Okay.
blood pressure.
Uh-huh.
But Kwame, it's not the same as hypertension.
Oh.
Right. So you, me, Philip, Abeku, Oliver, everybody has a blood pressure. All right. And this is the pressure within your blood vessels anytime the heart beats and relaxes to push blood around the body. So blood flows around the body. There's something we call the double circulatory system.
Okay.
So the same volume of blood runs throughout your body. And the heart is at the center of it. It acts as a pump to push the blood around the body. So, Kwame, you are tech. Tech is science and technology. Well, So the people who did physics, maths, and engineering, all those things, they know about fluid mechanics. All right. West African gas pipeline. A woman, it's in Nigeria, then they shut us, then we'll get doomed so because we owe them. That West African gas pipeline, think about it. It's a tube, and you've got gas going through, but you can get liquid also going through, and that liquid must flow under pressure.
Ah.
So blood pressure, everybody has a blood pressure.
Okay.
That is not a problem. But when we talk about high blood pressure, hypertension, then we're saying that your blood pressure is over and above the limits that would maintain good health. So we call it hypertension, high blood pressure. So, Kwame, you have a blood pressure right now, and that is why your brain receives enough blood, your kidneys receive enough blood, your heart itself receives enough blood. If your blood pressure drops to 0, you are not part of us. You are dead.
Okay.
So 0 is not good enough. Too high is also not good enough. So hypertension is a disease where the individual has higher than the recommended blood pressure level.
Oh, so why is it bad? Are there health risks of having an elevated blood pressure?
pressure.
Wouldn't it make you work faster?
Well, if it's like the West Africa gas pipeline, if you increase the pressure, you think that Ghana will get the gas faster. Huh?
Yeah,
right.
sharp.
But before Kwame, I get into that, let me share with you some statistics about this disease now that we know exactly what hypertension is. And Kwame, deliberately, I don't want to throw the numbers out there. So we determine your blood pressure, or your blood pressure is represented by 2 numbers. Kwame, enye lotto numbers. Ukucha undi. It's not too sure, but it's just 2.
And you wouldn't know until you try it.
So it's represented by 2 numbers, and it's when you go above these 2, then these numbers, then we would say you have hypertension. Kwame, some key facts I want to share with our audience before I answer your next question. The world's population is about 7.4 billion. It is estimated that 1.28 billion adults aged between 30 and 79 years worldwide have higher than normal blood pressure levels. I mean, that's a huge number. Total population is 7.4, thereabout. You've got children in there forming probably the bulk of it. So adults, even if adults are half this number, that's about almost 4 million or 3 point something. And you have 1.28 of all adults having hypertension. 2/3 of this number, all right, live in low and middle income countries, such as Ghana.
Like us.
2/3 of this 1.28 billion. So we used to think, when I was growing up, we used to think that hypertension is a disease of Western societies and so on and so forth. Not true.
I said no say esikafoyare.
Escafoyare. Say here for no. The pressure, the societal pressure, and all sorts of pressure is too much. 3, we have an estimated 46% of adults who have hypertension are unaware. I mean, this is the part that frightens me. 46%. So this 1.28 billion, almost 590 million adults are listening to us right now, walking the surface of this earth right now, sitting in an office, in a car, inside a home, in bed, and they have hypertension. They do not know about it. Kwame, it's a huge number. 590 million people. In Ghana, hypertension was the leading cause of death, 36.7% in 2022.
Hey.
And 2 weeks ago, we released the 2022 birth and death registration statistic, and hypertension. The one that said out of every 10 deaths, 6 were men, 4 females. That particular report is what I'm referring to. Hypertension is the number 1 killer in our part of the world as of 2022, the registered death. It is a major cause of premature death worldwide. So, Kwame, you asked me the question, what are the health risks of having an elevated blood pressure? Well, the health risks are enormous. I'll split them into two. We have the acute, which means sudden onset, and then we have the chronic, which means long lasting. So, I mean, most of the time, doctors will use these terminologies: acute, chronic. Acute means sudden onset, and then chronic means that long standing. Right. So, the challenges you have with your health will fall in these two categories. You may have acute problems, such as a sudden loss of consciousness. And Kwame, we see this all the time in public places. Then in Ghana, we say, hey, nipa ne fainti. Somebody's just collapsed. We see it a lot. That's one of the reasons why almost all visits to the emergency room, they're up there in medicals, maybe 2/3 of them, sudden loss of consciousness. Then the person is rushed in. Then you see, oh, unfortunately, gone too soon. You say, oh, but I was at the marketplace with this person. I was in church with him on Sunday. He looked very fine. And the sudden loss of consciousness may be because the person just suffered a stroke. A stroke is an interruption in blood flow to the brain. When the pressure is too high in the tubes, it may break the tube. And that is why you have engineers who manage the West African gas pipeline and all pipelines. Whether it is gas or it's fluid, it must flow under certain pressure, because this fluid will exert a force on the walls of the blood vessel. And if the pressure is too high, it just ruptures it, and you bleed into the brain, and therefore you would have had an interruption in blood supply to the brain, and that's what we call a stroke. Depending on how big the injury is, this particular injury is, you may lose certain function of the brain, or if it involves a large portion of the brain, then you would die. All of it is gone. Again, you may have an interruption in the heart itself. But although the heart is a pump, it's pumping blood, what it does is that it is also the one responsible. The muscles must also receive blood before they can pump blood. So when you have an interruption in blood flow over there as well, because the blood vessels are blocked, then you can also have a heart attack. Hypertension can also cause the heart to have an irregular rhythm, what we call arrhythmias, irregular rhythm. So the heart beats to a very specific rhythm, all right, and it doesn't change. But when you start to have irregularities in the rhythm, then it can also impact the amount of blood that you are able to push around. So these are some of the acute things that can happen. The chronic things are terrible. Chronic kidney disease, dialysis. Kwame, I think Joy FM has been pushing this dialysis business, very, very well. And so that is what I'll use as my prototypical example of chronic complications of hypertension. Chronic kidney disease requiring dialysis or kidney transplant. There are many more, from the eyes to poor flow to your feet, such that the doctors may have to amputate your limbs, to liver failure, and so on and so forth. So there are quite a number of them.
This is scary. But how does it come about? I mean, is it
Good
something
question.
that we eat?
Good question.
Is it some air that we breathe?
Right. So, Kwame, most of the cases of hypertension, would say 9 out of 10 or 95% of all cases belong to a category we'll call primary hypertension. Primary hypertension, meaning the cause is unknown. Scientifically, we cannot determine a cause. And I'm saying scientifically. But there are a few of them, about 5% of all cases, where we know the cause. So we'll call those one secondary hypertension. We should not focus on that for this discussion. Let's talk about the primary hypertension, the one that we do not have an obvious cause. So when people come to the consulting room and they always make attributions to their high blood pressure, oh, it's because of NAM1. Oh, it is because of Doomsaw, my coastal business. Oh, it's because my mother died. And it's because we always want to make some attributions. Scientifically, we cannot do that. We do not know. But Kwame, however, there are some factors we call risk factors. All right? Things that increases your likelihood. So if you take a cohort of about 10 individuals who have those risk factors I'm going to talk about, and another cohort who don't have these risk factors, then it is more likely that first group, they will develop hypertension. Number one is age. We don't often see hypertension in teenagers and young adults. No. So age is a risk factor. So if you take a cohort of older individuals, 40 plus, against 10-year-olds and 18-year-olds and 21-year-olds, you'd realize that hypertension is higher in that 40 plus, cohort. So age is one factor. Okay. 2, genetics, all right, is another risk factor. So that's why the family history is very important. If you have your mom, your dad suffering from hypertension, then your likelihood, because you inherited the genes, the likelihood that you will develop hypertension is also great. 3, obesity and sedentary lifestyle. Kwame, if you carry too much weight than your body needs, too much fat than your body needs, and especially fat around your midsection, then you increases your risk. Yes. So that whole sedentary lifestyle that we keep hammering on, and obesity. Fortunately, in our part of the world, especially for both sexes, but women, it's a thing of beauty. When we say a beautiful woman in Ghana, Kwame, I think you know the specifications.
No, I don't.
Ask Philip, he will share with you. Right. So, and if you're a man too, and Kwame, you look like me, and then as people are always surprised when they come to the hospital, it's him, it's not him, it's him, it's not him. But this one is too lenge to be the drive doctor. They're expecting to see somebody like you, And they say, God, if you're a man, you have a big belly too, that kind of thing, But obesity is really a big risk factor. Smoking, Kwame, is also another big risk factor for hypertension, and then alcohol abuse is also another risk factor. Diabetes is also another risk factor for hypertension. So these are associations or risk factors for developing what we call primary hypertension.
Okay, so how will I know that I have high blood pressure? Since you say that a lot of people are listening right now, they have high blood pressure and they are unaware.
590 million people globally, adults, are listening, but they're not aware. But Kwame, despite it being such a troublesome medical condition, it is one of the things that is very easy to diagnose. So it's a numbers game. This disease is a silent killer. So most of the time, it will not give you symptoms. Most of the time, it will not give you symptoms. All right? So it's a silent disease. So you need to have your blood pressure taken the correct way, using the correct apparatus by a qualified person. So Kwame, 3 things. Correct way. Using the correct apparatus by someone who knows what he or she is doing.
Okay.
So what is the correct way, or what is the correct apparatus? No.
Because sometimes makuma nebo pim say na ultimu feel say bibi koso wo inside.
When you saw estimate to your heart too was doing. But I know na BP.
Enu na
dey. Say no na your dasem. Exactly. You're absolutely right. A few times you would get certain symptoms like palpitations.
Yeah.
Right? But as we just talked about jokingly here, palpitations can arise from so many other different things. Kwekwe Uso loves his coffee. But it can give him palpitations at a point. So there are so many reasons. That's why we don't want to wait and make attributions. So rarely it will give you things like dizziness, palpitations, and headaches. But I don't want anybody to wait for these things. But the way to know is to have your blood pressure checked properly. It's a very simple device which you slap over your arm Ideally, we are supposed to check in both arms, right arm, left arm. And Kwame, the arm is the part of the body between the shoulder and the elbow. I take that again. The arm is the part of the body between the shoulder and the elbow. And that's where we slap the cuff on, and then we would measure the blood pressure.
Okay.
All right. We don't use one reading. You
Yeah.
must have 2 readings on 2 separate occasions to make the diagnosis according to one of the that's one of the commonest way that we go about.
But the way that so many people, of course, you talk about how the mortality is high. It's killing a lot of people, right?
It is.
Can't it be treated? Is it not something you can treat?
Kwame,
Why is it killing so many people?
the ignorance, the lack of diagnosis, that's the problem. The identification. It's so easy to manage, but we first must detect it. We must detect it first. And that is where we have our biggest challenge. And that is why May 17 has been set aside for all this awareness to happen. All right? Kwame, we should detect it. So everybody who's listening today, even if you are not listening, or if you are listening, your parents are not listening, your friends are not listening, get everybody to check their blood pressure. Kwame, once we check the blood pressure and you are above the limit, and your doctor, not anybody else, please, there are a lot of people who walk around the market, they go to the community pharmacy and all of that. Please, 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 it is only a clinician, a doctor, who should make the diagnosis for you.
Okay.
So once the doctor makes the diagnosis, Kwame, the treatment protocol is very, very, very simple. It's something we call TLC, therapeutic lifestyle change. Not the one you were thinking about.
I was like,
Tender loving
I
care.
mean, now my wife can handle my wife can handle that.
Kwame, not that one. So therapeutic lifestyle change. All right. So lifestyle change in the area of what you eat, what you drink, what you put in your body, and then also how much exercise you get under your belt. Some individuals may need medicines in addition to this to help manage the condition. So you don't need to die from hypertension.
Okay, a few questions are coming in. Sue says, doctor, if the cuff doesn't fit the upper arm, is it okay to put the cuff between the elbow and the wrist?
No. The standardized one is the arm. And I know I've seen some the wrist ones, all right, and all of that. But the standardized one, the one that we prefer, for which all these things are, is the arm. There are different cuff sizes, so come to the hospital and get a bigger arm.
Oh, okay.
A bigger cuff.
A bigger cuff.
Yes.
So there are bigger cuffs.
Oh,
like
of
that.
course. When you look at my arm and
Yeah.
then you look at even your arm, not
Yeah.
the same size, but we've got different cuff sizes.
But if you are having a challenge with the cuff, then it means there's a bigger challenge than the cuff.
Yes, because then
Do you
you are
understand what I'm
probably
saying?
obese.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway.
So then the risk factor is there.
Good evening, Joy FM. This one says, I palpitate a lot and sometimes feel my BP is normal. Is there a cause for alarm?
Does it feel that the BP is normal? You can't feel BP is normal. We have to check it.
Oh, it says sometimes I feel dizzy, but my BP is normal.
Okay. All right. So there's something we call a BP profile. You should go to the hospital. Sometimes you just take one measurement and we use it to represent what is happening the whole day. If he's feeling dizzy, if he or she is getting palpitations, Kwame, you should go to the hospital. We'll do what we call a BP profile, or what we call the ambulatory BP monitoring, where we measure the BP over a 24-hour period. The thing is on your arm for 24 hours. You're sleeping, we're measuring it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Kweku Nadenta says, I've been on hypertensive medication for almost 3 years. Prior to that, my wife was pregnant. Now I want to know, can I have more babies if I want? I'm currently 35 years.
Male or female? I had a wife.
Kwame. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
I don't know what
Adenta.
Kweku from Adenta.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure what the connection with the wife's pregnancy is, but if he's on antihypertensive, it doesn't preclude him from having babies.
Okay.
Yes, at all. It's not one of those things that can cause genetic abnormalities in your sperms. So we don't worry about that.
Okay. Now this one here says, Doc, I'm hypertensive. That was after giving birth to my last born 15 years ago.
Right.
I'm on medication, but at times I have palpitations. My doctor says it may be due to the medication, but he still didn't change the medication.
Right, like I said, palpitation. So she has what we call pregnancy-induced hypertension, and it comes with the pregnancy. Sometimes it goes away after the pregnancy. Other times it stays on. It lingers. Hers obviously stayed on, and she's on treatment. Palpitations can be due to 1,001 different reasons. I think she should go back to her doctor and present the case again for further investigations. It could be a number of different things, high thyroid levels, for example, so it needs to be, worked out by the doctor. You can also get a second opinion from a different place.
Abena Boateng in our dentist as Lexis. Please ask doctor if one can have all two. I'm sure she's referring to the acute and the
chronic.
Yes.
Complications.
She says, example, acute chronic spondylosis.
Okay, so spondylosis is a totally different thing. It has it's your spine, arthritis of the spine. All right, so that one has nothing to do with hypertension. But if you're talking about can you have acute complications of hypertension and can you get chronic complications of hypertension? Oh, absolutely. From day one, every single day you live with high blood pressure, you're damaging long term your eyes, your kidneys, your liver, your blood vessels. So these things go on a daily basis, and long term, then it becomes chronic, and one day it just explodes.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Namu acute, say opposite you obtuse, Anna.
Kwame, with the national science and mass quiz, do this one. I'll let you,
acute and obtuse.
Where are the angles here, eh?
Okay. It's not okay.
Yeah, angles, Kwame.
Anyway, Doc, there's so many questions. I wish I could actually read all of them, but I'm sure they would want to speak to you about their hypertensive states and questions that they have.
Absolutely. So those who want to talk to us, the number is 0501 477 340. 0501 477 340. And a member of the team would respond, speak to you.
Okay, Doc, thank you so much. Dr. Yaw Osafo is the